Our meeting. My name is Peter Ginder, and I am the chair of the Charter Commission. I'm going to call to order our regular meeting for Wednesday, December 4th. Before we begin the meeting, I want to offer a friendly reminder to all commission members and the public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as a further method to increase the accessibility of our proceedings. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. I will now call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll so that we may verify the presence of a quorum.
Commissioner Boone.
Present.
Clegg.
Here.
Davis Carter is absent. DeMillo is absent. Doherty.
Here.
Garcia is absent. Hawkins is absent. Hill is absent. Kozak.
Here.
Nye is absent. Perry.
Here.
Sandberg is absent. Smith.
Here.
Vice Chair Rubenstein.
Here.
Chair Ginder.
Present.
We have 8 present.
Let the record reflect we have a quorum, and we will now proceed to our agenda. Commissioners, the agenda is before us. May I please have a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
So moved. Clegg.
Second, Rubenstein.
We have a proper motion before us. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes and the agenda is adopted. The next item on our agenda is the acceptance of the minutes. May I please have a motion to accept the minutes from our regular meeting in September? And then is there a second?
Motion to accept, Rubenstein. Second.
We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. That motion passes, and the minutes are accepted. The next is the chair's report. I don't have much to report, but if you will note that during this year we were considering even year elections, putting that on the ballot as a question. We did not put that on because of we felt as our inability under state law to do a proper ballot for that. But as you notice, St. Paul had a citizen-led petition that was placed on the ballot, and that passed during the election. I think it was roughly a 60-40, and so we'll have an opportunity to see how St. Paul addresses the same issues that we addressed as a body. So, unless there are any questions or any other discussion on that issue, I'll move to the next item on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the 2025 Charter Amendment submission timeline, and a copy of that was forwarded to all commissioners earlier this week. This timeline outlines both the signatures required and the relevant dates for proposed amendments by citizen petition to the Charter Commission. And is there any discussion by members of the commission on that proposal? Seeing none, may I please have a motion to adopt the 2025 Charter Amendment submission timeline? And is there a second?
Second. Clegg.
We have the motion before us. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. That motion passes and the timeline is adopted. The next item is the 2025 Charter Commission calendar. This sets the proposed dates for our regular meetings in 2025. There will be 4 regular meetings scheduled for January 15th, which is not the first Wednesday of the month, but that's because there are some conflicts with other boards and entities, so it's been moved. May 7th, September 3rd, and December 3rd. Those last 3 dates are our traditional first Wednesdays. Is there any discussion on these proposed dates? I don't see any discussion. May I please have a motion to adopt the proposed Charter Commission regular calendar for 2025?
So moved.
Barry. Kozak, second.
We have the proper motion before us. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. And those opposed say nay. That motion passes and the calendar is adopted. And I'll further direct the city clerk to publish and post the 2025 calendar as public notice for all of our regular meetings. Our next agenda item is a presentation on the 2024 election in Minneapolis, as well as maybe a little bit more information on the St. Paul even year election ballot question. Printed copies of the slides are available on the dais, and I'll invite staff, Mr. Carl, to begin their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm going to quickly just turn it over to our experts. We have our Director and Deputy Director of our Elections and Voter Services Department here to provide both a summary of the 2024 presidential general election as well as some information, as you noted, about the passage by citizen petition of even year elections for municipal elections in the City of St. Paul. So I'll invite our Elections Director, Katie Smith, to come on up and give that presentation.
Ms. Smith, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Chair Gender and Commissioners. My name is Katie Smith. I'm the Director of Elections and Voter Services with City of Minneapolis. I'm joined with Deputy Director Martin. I'm going to let him speak first. He'll talk a little bit about the election that just passed, and then I'll give a little brief update. It's minimal, but it's what we know so far regarding St. Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Smith. My name is John Martin. I am the Deputy Director of Elections for the City of Minneapolis. So, the 2024 election concluded on November 5th of this year. The city saw a voter turnout of 78.1% of registered voters and 219,417 votes cast. In comparison, Hennepin County saw a turnout of 81.7%, and the state as a whole saw a turnout of 76.4%. This was the third highest turnout on record for the city of Minneapolis in the presidential year, not as high as 2020 and not as high as 2016, actually the fourth, not as high as 2012. A couple of other comparisons. So the city, we have broken down in both 2020 and 2024 how folks voted in the election. So in 2024, 61% of all votes cast were cast on election day, and 39% of votes were cast early. And we have a breakdown of how those early votes were cast. The majority of our, or the plurality of our early votes cast were cast through the mail, through our vote by mail process. The next highest was folks who voted early in person at our main early vote center at 980 East Hennepin Avenue. In the last 2 weeks of the election, we opened up 2 additional satellite early vote centers, and new this year we had 11 pop-up early vote centers dispersed, one-day pop-ups throughout the city. And the South Early Vote Center, which is at Bethel Church in South Minneapolis, saw about 6% of folks voted there. Our North Early Vote Center at the Urban League, saw about 2%, and then our pop-ups saw about 3% of folks voting at our pop-ups. And then the other category is folks who voted through other means of absentee voting. So folks who voted in person at Hennepin County, folks who voted overseas using the UACAVA voting process, voters who participated using our healthcare facility voting process, and through the agent delivery process. The main difference from this year compared to 2020 was the return of folks voting at election day at their polling place. Because of COVID-19 in 2020, a large majority of folks voted through the mail and early. This year, because the pandemic was no longer on people's minds and no longer a concern, we saw a reversion back to voting primarily on election day. And lastly, we just wanted to look at how the raw vote totals differed from 2024 and 2020. So the city saw about 18,000 less people vote this year than they did than who voted in 2020. The city also lost about the same number of registered voters over that 4-year period. This was not isolated solely to the city of Minneapolis. The state and the nation saw around a 2 to 3% decrease in the level of turnout compared to 2020. This can be this turnout is determined by a number of factors, but what we saw, especially in urban areas, a lot of decrease in turnout and voter participation. So this is not isolated for the city of Minneapolis, but it is something that that we are looking into. Is also the turnout decrease was more pronounced in wards that have lower voter turnout in general. If you look at like Ward 6 and Ward 2 and Ward 10, those had a much greater decrease in turnout compared to usual high turnout wards like Ward 12, 13, and 11. So next, I will turn it over to Director Smith to talk more about what St. Paul did on Election Day regarding their City Question 2, even year elections.
At this point, maybe I'll just take a break. Are there any questions on this portion of the presentation? Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
And so with the turnout at the pop-ups, do you foresee instituting them in future elections?
Yes, we will most likely have additional pop-ups for our future elections, since some they were a success both on our end and then also from the voters' perspective. We got a lot of rave reviews from having them.
Okay, great, thank you.
Other questions? I have just a quick one. If I understood, you said the number of people who actually voted dropped, and you said the number of registered voters in the city have dropped.
Yes.
Do you have an explanation or a hazard a guess as to what happened for the number of registered voters also dropping?
A possible explanation. So the city itself saw a loss of population from the 2020 census. The city had about 429,000 people in the city. Now the most recent estimate is the city has about 425,000 people. So you can speculate that the folks that the registration drop is possibly that folks who are moving out of the city tended to be more likely to vote, and the influx of population at the city, the people who are replacing them tend to be less voters. We see that there is a big drop on campus that could possibly be because of the residual effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, that those folks the new students on campus may be less likely to vote, but it's a number of factors which we don't really have a concrete answer to point to the exact reason for.
Thank you.
Of course.
I don't see any other further questions, so.
Thank you. Could you just repeat the loss of total population between 20 and 24?
Yeah. So in the 2020 census, the city had roughly 429,000 residents. Currently now, the most recent estimate was in 2023, and that was 425,000 residents. So a loss of around 4,000-ish people in the city.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions as well. I'm wondering how many votes came in after the deadline that you couldn't count? Were there very many of those?
I do not know off the top of my head, but it was far less than in previous elections. So this year, we could accept absentee ballots, whether dropped off or by mail, up until 8 p.m. on Election Day. Anything received after that was considered late. This year, we received far fewer late ballots than we have in previous years. The exact number, I'm not exactly certain.
My second question, are there any known instances of fraudulent voting that occurred?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, that looks like
Can you maybe just
The end of those
explain a little
questions?
bit- Just explain a little bit about this year, the law change. You highlighted it, but the difference from 3 PM to
Sure.
8 PM and what that does for voters as an advantage.
Yeah, so prior to this election, the deadline for someone to drop off their absentee ballot was 3 PM on Election Day. You could still mail it back either by UPS or package delivery service and by 8 PM, but there was a 3 PM drop-off deadline prior to this year. The legislature in 2023 extended that drop-off deadline to 8 PM on Election Day, and that allowed, and we saw a greater access of folks and a greater number of people taking advantage of that extra 5 hours of dropping off ballots.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Gender and Commissioners. I'm here to speak a little bit on the City of St. Paul. As we're all aware, they had a ballot question that was citizen petition driven to move all of their municipal city offices to an election held during even year cycles in conjunction with presidential years. That measure passed on the November 5th, 2024 ballot. There were 74,941 total people voting yes and 48,475 voting no. Of the total votes cast, which was 123,416 in that race, that equates to a 60.7% approval rating, 39.3% voting no. We know last time we were here, we spoke a lot about what does down ballot drop-off look like? So we went ahead and Deputy Director Martin calculated that for us in this particular race just for interest. So we see total votes of 123,416 in this race. Total who voted in the presidential race at the top of the ticket was 137,373. So the difference in that's 13,957 votes, or a total roll-off of about 10.2% for the down ballot question. Also included within your materials and packets is just a copy of the City of St. Paul wards and their district councils, because we also included within these charts the turnout based upon individual wards as well. For next steps, the City of St. Paul has approved through that ballot measure. All 7 members of their council who were elected in 2023 will now be serving a 5-year term. On November 4th of 2025, voters in St. Paul will be electing their mayor, and that will be to a 3-year term, and that will set them to a 2028 start for their even-year municipal cycle. At that time, they'll elect their mayor and all 7 members of their council at the same time that they're voting for president and vice president, and they will continue from there forward serving 4-year terms, all of those positions. Things that still need to be decided. St. Paul is currently determining the method to update their city charter. Once that task is finished, they're then going to start conversations about future elections. In our discussions, they said that they projected to start discussing that potentially in January. They'll be needing to figure out how the city ballot using ranked choice voting is going to be merged with their ballot for president and with the other federal, state, and local elections. We know that some cities, such as Portland, Oregon, which uses RCV for its municipal and the presidential years, have done so by using 2 ballot cards, one which has those local candidates, and then the other which has their president, federal, and state office races. There are still the outstanding issues like were discussed when Minneapolis was when we were considering whether or not for that to be on our ballot. Those include 206.90 subdivision 6, which limits us to 1 ballot card, and the order of offices are determined underneath of that statute, which would inhibit having a standalone card. The second is 209D.09, which is that the state and federal election ballots have to follow the example ballot that's provided by the Office of the Secretary of State, which doesn't contemplate RCV. And then administratively, it's still outstanding as ballot reconciliation. In discussions with the city, with Ramsey County, and with the Office of the Secretary of State, I've asked that we be included on discussions, especially during this legislative cycle, anything that comes forward in St. Paul's attempts to address those issues, so that we can ensure that those would be something that would work for Minneapolis as well. It's brief, but that's about what we know so far, but I'm happy to stand for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commissioners? I don't see any. So thank you again for your presentations, both of you. Thank you very much. And seeing we have no further discussion, I'll ask the clerk to file that report. The final item on our agenda is public comment. We take the receipt of public comments at the end of each meeting, and if anyone is here to submit such a comment, and if you haven't signed in, please make sure you come up and introduce yourself before you start. I do not see anyone present, and I'll ask the clerk if anybody has signed up.
Chair Ginder, no one has signed up at this time.
With that, I don't see anyone present for any comment, and therefore we've concluded all of our business to come before the Charter Commission. And without any other objection, we stand adjourned. Oh.